This is the Improv Breakfast. Welcome. We are Improv Inc. and we support teams and individuals to connect, collaborate, and thrive using our modality, applied improvisation. It's a weekly meetup. We do this every week and we discuss the theme of this week's newsletter. I'm Paul.
I'm Vic. This week we discuss through lines. What are they? What is it? Think of it as a single idea, a question, or a theme that creates tension. A central theme or spine that elevates a talk from a collection of ideas into a proper journey, an experience for that audience. Paul, say a bit
Yes.
more about through lines if you like. You were the person who wrote this week's newsletter. So
Yeah. So the thing with through lines, they're like threads, right? We've all heard the thread of a story, but a story can have several threads, and a through line is something that kind of like brings those things together, brings all of them so that they culminate into the big crescendo, the big ending, the big conclusion, the big kind of like moment of transformation for the audience, or the moment of clarity that you're giving the audience. This is how I interpret what a through line is. It's that path that um, I suppose if you're in a talk, listening to the speaker talk, and you're wondering where is this going, that in a way is a mark that the through line might be starting to take shape because your curiosity is piqued. Not to be
yeah,
confused with where is this going? I've got no idea. Because that's the mistake that we see often is that people are just rambling on and there's no end in sight, and you're just like, well, I've no idea what this talk's all about at all,
I think
and
it's a good
that's what
point.
you're trying to avoid. Yeah,
Yeah, the audiences can only hold so much, right? They need a good through line. What this does is reduces cognitive load for your audience. So
right.
in neuroscience terms, it's really important. It gives them a proper path to follow. And that can be really powerful and attractive, right? This curiosity that you're building in them, not curiosity as to what it might be about, but curiosity as to where the narrative will be going.
Yeah, and another way to frame that is you're building tension. You're
Mm.
building tension in what your audience is listening to. And when I've just done it myself, when you build tension, the audience leans in a little bit, don't they? Because they're alive. They want to know what's going to happen next. And that keeps them focused. It keeps them engaged.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Are you both is it goodness gracious, is it possible for both of you to write in the chat here on this call? If so, feel free to hop onto mute and to just put into the chat how you feel about giving presentations or at least collating thoughts that might be in the room, might be disparate. Maybe you've been working with a group and you've got a whole bunch of stuff and you have to create the through line there in the moment. Yeah, do stick into the chat, whether that's within your wheelhouse, whether you find it easy, whether you find it stressful. And Paul, I feel like it's a good moment to actually explain what the activity will be, and so we can run it and give ourselves as much time as possible. What do you think?
Yeah, I do want to do that just before that. I want to maybe just pick into what happens if you can't create a through line. What
Mm.
does that look like? I've kind of touched on it, but maybe with Darren and Maxit to just get your thoughts on have you ever seen or delivered a talk or be that from the stage or in a meeting where you've completely seen the through line missing or you just sort of experienced it yourself of wondering where your own talk is going to. And we can use our voice for this so you can come off mute. Have you had those sort of experiences?
Do I put my hand up or just stop talking?
Yeah, just talk.
Um,
Yeah, go, Darren.
so I think we spoke before, Paul, where I've been going to Toastmasters and they do something called table topics. We have 2 minutes to talk about
Yeah,
a particular topic they'll throw at you on the spot. And that is a real challenge for me for getting up there, thinking what I'm going to talk about. A bit like this conversation now, because I've put my hand up, start talking. Where am I going to lead it to? And when it's going to come to that end point and finish with a powerful stop so people know I've finished talking. I'm not just sort of meandering and keep going
right.
nowhere and it doesn't finish. A bit like this right now, I'm feeling like I'm not getting to an end. um, so being able to structure a short speech, have it built with the what I'm going to talk about at the beginning. It's just the thread that I'm understanding. Like you talk about what you're going to talk about, then you actually get to the hard part of the topic, whatever it is, and then you build a tension up towards the end, and you have this big, well, not big in, well, it could be a joke or something at the end. That's my sort of understanding, really.
I love that. The
Yeah.
powerful stop. I wrote it down. I loved it that much. Yeah, I get that. I get that. Raxit, do you have some thoughts?
I'm. It's a new concept for me. I'm just still trying to understand the exact definition. I'm always thinking about practical examples. Could you give me a practical example of a through line again, please?
A practical example. Well, we're going to try and do that in our activity in a moment.
Wonderful.
So, but it would be
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah, I was just going
Go
to
for it.
suggest, from a comedian's perspective, when they're on stage, some comedians use what we call callbacks.
Hmm.
And so they might make a reference to something, and then later on in their routine, they call back to it, and that callback, it becomes a funny joke because you kind of like primed it earlier. And these callbacks, if they do several of them, are keeping their routine, their set on some kind of like track along the way, so it doesn't just feel like it's a random bunch of one-liners or jokes. So some comedians will use those callbacks to help keep the story, moving along as they chuck other bits of material on top of it. I'm just looking at what we've got written, what you've written down. Yeah, what have you, Vic? You followed up a comment there from Darren.
Yes, I loved Darren's point. Darren, I'm sorry to out you even further. You've put in the chat that you're an introvert, and yeah, that's a beautiful place to be, being an introvert. Do you know, it's a really interesting distinction. Being an introvert does not necessarily mean that one is shy, and being shy doesn't necessarily mean that you're an introvert. Sometimes there's a big intersect there, but not always. But you've said it's currently a challenge for me. Leading the thread is not natural for me, being an introvert. And yeah, I think that introverts and extroverts can struggle with it, but certainly it's not a natural place to be. That makes sense. Yeah. And so what happens when you do find yourself in that position? What happens to you in your body, or,
It's okay for me to talk. Yeah.
Yeah.
If say we're going around a room and we're like talking a topic like, what's your experience been on this before? We're going working our way around the room. As it approaches me, there's that feeling getting closer and closer towards me, and I'm like, that, you can feel your heart and your hands start to sweat. I'm like, calm down, deep breaths, and then I'll get into it. So that's kind of just a bit of anxiety before it actually happens. And then when I'm actually doing it, sometimes it just completely falls away, and I've forgotten that fear that I had before, and I can talk. And other times I feel like I was looking at the room and seeing all these eyes waiting for me to say the next thing, and it doesn't come, or I don't ever get to the end of that thread that I'm working for, or doing
Right.
a callback. It's great. Like in a small room, talking to my family. Sometimes I can do something like a callback, and we talk about something earlier on today and make a kind of a joke about it. But trying to do that in front of other people, that was something that's a level above where anything I can do right now. And it's something I love to be able to do. But
well, I love this. And it's really important to note that, yeah, your nervous system, if you are under a position of stress, you're waiting your turn, for instance, in a public space, however that looks, will definitely shrink your brain for all other opportunities. You just have a stress response. So you could turn into flight or fight mode. And so it's really hard to just hold on to the relaxation of just being able to see what happens when it gets to your turn. And so that's a really nice point. And I would just say that Paul and I constantly reiterate that it's about practice. It's just about doing the reps and finding yourself having had lots of different types of experience within that same realm.
Yeah.
Cool. Paul, should we run it?
Yeah, I think we should run it. I want to come back to what Raxit wrote later, that you involuntarily create through lines. I want to understand what that's all about. But yeah, let's see if we can run this activity. We call it spaghetti versus tapestry. Spaghetti is your first thoughts that you just like throw spaghetti at the wall. What does it look like? It's a complete mess, but it's a collection of thoughts. And the tapestry is some kind of finished product where you're pulling all these threads of those spaghetti together into something that looks quite elegant. So how does it work? It's very simple, really. We will ask for a volunteer, and they will talk on a subject. We'll give you a subject to talk about for about 30 seconds. And the idea is that you just say as many things as you can about that one thing in those 30 to 45 seconds. You're just collecting ideas. It doesn't have to be coherent. It's just really, you're just sort of like collecting ideas and putting them in a bucket.
Awesome. Darren, fancy it?
I'll give it a go.
Yeah.
Why not?
Why
not? You did identify yourself as being the person who finds it most difficult. Raxit said he's kind of all right with it. So let's go with you. Let's throw you in at the deep end. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to give you a topic. Let's make it nice and easy. And as we're at breakfast, I want you to just talk about cafes for 30 to 45 seconds.
And to be clear, it doesn't have to be a story. It's just this thought, this thought, this thought. Go for it.
Okay, so cafes, something I don't really go to very often, but there's the builder types that will go to a cafe in the morning and have their cooked breakfast. There's the old man and old lady that will go to their local cafe and sit down for a nice cup of tea. And it's a hub where lots of different types can go to and enjoy a breakfast. And some community and get chatting and start their day on the way they enjoy for the morning. Some might go for a strong coffee to start the day because they're feeling a bit tired. If you stood outside a cafe and watched the different people going in and out, you'd see a whole variety of different people. I don't know how long I've spoken for. Hopefully that's 40 seconds.
That was perfect.
Was it?
Incredible
Yeah.
work.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Love it. How did you feel, Darren, doing that? You were given a topic and then go. How did you feel?
When I thought about it, I was like, I never go to a cafe. I don't really have much to talk about. So I definitely, at the end, you can see I asked her how long I'd spoke for. I didn't have that ending. I felt like I got the ideas. I started to put together a story.
Yeah.
But it didn't flow. I don't think it flows all the way to sort of where it should get to. Or maybe I haven't got a real structure to how I put this together.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. We won't ask for a
Specifically,
structure.
yeah, specifically the ask was just throw as many ideas out as you can, and you did, yeah.
So I'm intrigued though. You said you don't really go to cafes, and yet you were able to create some ideas just off the top of your head. How did you feel about doing that?
I had to recall my previous experiences of when I've been to a cafe, more when I'm on holiday. I didn't speak about holiday. Maybe I should have spoke about holiday, finding a cafe early in the morning, but I didn't speak about that. Just more the types of people that I would see going there and like builders going for their breakfasts. So I started to visualize what the topic was and to pull these ideas out with the old man and the old lady. I didn't really use any sort of metaphors or anything, but yeah.
Question, Darren. Yeah. Did you think of the holiday trope or your experiences on holiday in the moment, in the 40 seconds, and not present them, or did it just occur to you afterwards?
No, I did think about it, and I held back from saying that. Didn't think it was that interesting.
Spaghetti's
We'll
important.
be the judge of that.
Yeah. Okay. I would say just in this moment, I know Paul's keen to just run it again, and I don't want to just put too much air between the first time and the second time. But spaghetti is made up of all different kinds of things. You might think that tomato puree is a bit boring, but you need it to make a really good spaghetti sauce, right? Pasta essentially is quite boring, but you need it in order to make this brilliant spaghetti. So it's just as important as the tapestry. It's just that this is an exercise to get you from that to a kind of a coherence, that through line moment. So no idea in a divergent thinking space is a bad idea ever.
Okay.
Yes. So Darren, we're going to ask you to run it again.
Okay.
But before you do, and remembering some of the things that you said before, or some of the things that have triggered since, is to, before you go, to think of maybe an opening question that could lead you into this topic. Have you ever had a moment when, or something like that? Or think of an ending. How could you summarize this and go to that ending? Because you want to create a journey. And so you can come from a strong start, which could be a question, or think of an ending, your closeout. If we just give you a few seconds to think of that. And you only need to think of that one thing, and then let's see if you can use that as a springboard or an ending.
Okay, I'm going to give you 40 seconds on the clock, Darren.
Okay.
But also, it's not a sprint. You might just want to get one idea out.
Right.
But it's about the tapestry rather than the spaghetti now. We've got the spaghetti. What's it going to look like at the end? Off you go.
Have you ever had a moment on holiday where you wake up early and you see the morning sunrise and you think, what is this day going to lead me to? What am I going to do today? And you decide to wake the family up and get them out early for a walk. And this is exactly what I did. Is I took my family out for a long hike. Well, there was 4 and 6 at the time, but I took them out for a long walk for their little legs up these hills to go and see the sunrise. We got to the top, had a really great time. But do you know what we thought? We were starving. We were so hungry. We had to find the nearest cafe to go to. So we came back down from this hilltop after seeing this wonderful views and taking memory photos and these really strong memories for the future. Came back down and found a local brilliant cafe where we had an amazing breakfast, milkshakes, and these. We didn't actually have them because these cakes were huge. These cakes were massive and couldn't stomach that. But we had amazing breakfast and these milkshakes.
Incredible. That was over a minute, but it was.
Was it? Oh, sorry.
No, don't be sorry. It was happening. So lovely. How did that feel?
Because I made it more personal, it was easier to talk about. There was an actual event that happened, so I could just speak about it, and no real sort of jokes in there, just a story running through. But Yeah, maybe I didn't answer my question at the beginning. Did you ever have a moment? Have you ever had a moment? I forgot my question at the beginning by the time I got to the end, if I'm honest.
You began with something like, have you ever wondered how your day is going to pan out? That sort of thing. What kind of experiences are you going to have today? And the way, if I could recite your story back to you, would be, well, there was the journey, and then there was the destination. And maybe the question, could be something like, what's better, the journey or the arrival? And your journey was going up the hill and the views and the family photos and everything. But the arrival and having milkshakes, especially in the eyes of a kid, was, what was the best thing of today, the views or the milkshake? And the kid's probably going to go the milkshake.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And even though you had so little time, you definitely raised the stakes or gave us something to hook onto when you said everyone was starving. We were up at the top. We could see these amazing views. We got the photos, the memories, but we were all starving. And so that kind of precipitates us into the next part of the story, which is really nice. I'm aware of the time, and I'd love, since we only have 2 guests, to have Raxit run a little same thing, spaghetti and then tapestry. Paul, do you have a topic for Raxit?
Yeah, I do. I had 2 actually, but I think we're gonna have to pick a new one. Let's talk about workplace culture. You okay with that, Raxit? Workplace culture.
And Raxit,
Workplace culture.
just to reiterate, it's the spaghetti. We don't want a story. We want you just flinging loads of stuff, different types of experience, or even if you're talking about The Office, the TV show, just throw it out there, little nuggets. Off you go.
Yes, workplace culture involves lots of things. A lot of people use workplace culture for their only sense of community, sometimes because they live far away from where they're normally living. There are people who don't think about workplace culture at all. They just go to work and then go home. A lot of people go there looking for culture and they don't find anything, and people are all introverted. And a lot of people look forward to the workplace culture after hours, socialization. And since COVID, it's been difficult. People aren't really communicating, and it could be dying. That was
Awesome.
really cheerful, wasn't it? Yeah.
How did that feel?
I tried to be as bland, dull, throw out different perspectives on it, but without linking any of them.
And why is that bland and dull?
Because
what makes you think that?
Sorry.
What makes you think that having lots of different separate things is bland and dull?
Because they're like post-it notes on a board. They're just like, oh, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen. It was just trying to be as deadpan as I could about my thoughts without linking them on
Amazing
culture.
Now you shared those thoughts. Can you picture in your mind a theme? Was there something standing out, a through line that you could feel?
Yeah, community, engagement.
Brilliant. Okay, hold that. Let's go. Let's hear it. You ready? Off you go.
So, workplace culture, and is it a good thing or not? I think it's a good thing. I think people, since especially during COVID, longed for it. Even though before they were longing to work from home, after a while working from home, they wanted to go into the office. Why? Because you get to meet people, you get the coffee machine conversations, you actually enact and engage with people rather than on these screens and social media. I think it's a positive thing, and I think a lot of people who are shy go to work for engagement with other people. I think it's important. I think it needs to be taught because people need to relearn, and I think the theme is psychological safety.
Beautiful. How did that feel?
A bit more connected. So I wanted to push through the fact that the workplace culture thing, it has, as I mentioned in the more bland version, it has gone. I think a lot of people, especially if you're in one of those commuter belt towns, people drive in, park in a car park, go into work, leave at 5 o'clock, and barely sometimes work through their lunches as well. They don't have that culture, and I think it's an important thing to have, because if you just go in work, it's soul destroying.
Beautiful.
What I saw there with yours, Raxit, was your ideas in the first round. You shared a lot of kind of like experiences that people might have, or their definitions of culture, or what they're looking for. And in the second one, you didn't really refer to those, but actually, if you were to expand the 1 minute that you had into 3 minutes, say, those first ideas become the content of to support your argument. So you, in the second round, you created the framework of your argument and you could then pull all those ideas from the first round, the types of experience that people have with culture, to reinforce your content. That's what I picked up there.
Yeah,
So-
I could have pulled some of Darren's ideas as well from his greasy
Darren's
conversation.
listen, the greasy spoon, the cafe conversation was just as utopian. It was about productivity, and if you work hard, then you will reap the reward. And if you step out and do something that is unusual, like going up to the top of a mountain, you will reap those different kinds of rewards. Not just the view and the memories, but also the fact that you can go and have a good breakfast afterwards. So, in Aboriginal terms, the Indigenous people of Western Australia actually use storylines in order to be able to track through landscapes. And so they will create stories that talk about whatever is along the landscape in order that they keep themselves safe, keep each other safe. They'll talk about the journey to a particular type of berry that is poisonous, for instance. So this is about
You've
making
reminded me of a book,
sense.
Vic, Songlines, I think it's called.
Yeah, Songlines, exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Really great book. Wow, it is already past. What is your one takeaway, each of you, from this little activity in this moment? What is a takeaway that you might be able to use? Or a thought of any kind, positive or negative?
For me, it's when you said, I think Paul, you made a joke. You said, I'll be the judge of that. When I said I held back on ideas, knowing that any idea is a useful idea, really, when it comes to this, being able to throw, I never knew Spaghetti versus Tapestry. So being able to throw out those ideas and then choose and go with it.
Exactly. You got it right there. To choose, you don't have to use them all, but if we don't hear them all, we don't know what you're leaving out.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Raxit?
For me, it's about that single sort of string, that kind of purpose that links all the different things you say, all the elements of what I was talking about. And I think that was good advice as well from you, Paul. That's good.
Brilliant. Well, we are at the end of the hour, and as we like to do these days, is to grab a little screenshot if we can.
Yes.
Vic, you're a photographer for the day.
2 seconds. Thank you for the reminder.
If you don't mind.
Okay. So if you look at your cameras, thank you so much. That was nice. Thank you so much.
Okay.
And now, you know how to reach us through the Improv Breakfast. You can also reach us at hello@improving.co.uk if you want to find out how we can bring success to your work using applied improvisation. And next week, we are going to discuss You Can't Judge Me. And this is dealing with the doubters that start your inner critic doubters that stop you performing. That's what we're going to talk about next week, how to get those inner critics on your side.
Awesome.
And that's us for the week.
Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day.
Cheers.
Have a great weekend. See you soon.
Really enjoyed that. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks
cheers,
a lot.
Darren. Good to see you. Thanks, Raxit.
Darren. Thanks,
Thank you.
Raxit.
Take
See you
care.
later.